In terms of the fight card, first of all, the reaction from, I think, a lot of fans, they expected, hey, Elite XE merges with Strikeforce, going to be a star-studded card. This is a good card. Are the complaints unwarranted, though, that it's not a completely loaded card with 5 super fights right out of the gates?
Again, I go back to what happened in December with the UFC's 92 card. Super stacked, an amazing card, and yet after the following months, they were kind of struggling to try to put together that headliner. So it's again, a double-edged sword. Yeah, you want to come out with an instant impression. You want to put your best foot forward, which I think, again, removing Strikeforce from the competition, Strikeforce has had a proven successful business model by keeping it local, having local grudges solved in the fights here in San Jose, and you take, again, injuries have played a factor. I mean, if there would have been a Josh Thompson-Gilbert Melendez fight, this card would have been an A-plus on paper to me. I mean, I love the Diaz-Shamrock. Every matchup has a compelling storyline, and it's well matched up like Scott Coker does. But you're right. There's no Gina Carano. There's no Kimbo Slice, whether or not people want to see Kimbo Slice at this stage. But in terms of a Strikeforce card, I think it's better than most, and I think it's going to be a great kind of microcosm of what's to come for this company on Showtime.
All right. So go right to the main event. Your reaction initially when you saw it. Shamrock, we know him as a bigger guy. We know that, you and I know, people who cover the fights, we see Nick Diaz around. He's bigger than you'd expect.
Yes.
Is it still a big disparity, though, in terms of even at a catch weight of 179?
I don't know if it's going to be a big disparity because, in fact, looking at them side by side, and it's amazing when you see this, how much bigger actually Nick Diaz is than Frank Shamrock. Bigger in physical stature. In terms of power, I think Frank Shamrock has more power than Diaz in his legs, in his hands. This is, again, I like this fight because I'm a fan of the storyline. I'm a fan of having something more at stake, and it doesn't have to always be titles. It doesn't have to be the rankings, which I guess we can argue until the cows come home about the ranking system in mixed martial arts. But March 2006, Frank Shamrock opened up California to legal mixed martial arts, vanquishing Gracie in 21 seconds. Here's the storyline now that the young lion, the star pupil, coming back to avenge his honor. And I think they do make for an interesting fight, and especially in this market, the Battle of North California. Thank you, Kakalaki here, talking March Madness. But it's a great fight for this market, and I think it will translate very well to television. All right.
What's the other fight on the card that excites you the most?
You know what? I'm always a big fan of the ladies, believe it or not. Even with my, one little peccadillo that I incurred in Hawaii in September 2007 that, unfortunately, I'm now bringing up to the masses here on this wonderful video. But no, I've been a big proponent of female fighting since the very beginning. I've done a vast majority of female fights in Canada. I've done majority of Gina Carano's fights, and I think she's a tremendous ambassador to the sport. Chris Cyborg and Hitomi Akano, again, big size discrepancy, but with the Japanese, as you saw in Carano's last fight against Takahashi, I mean, the Bushido spirit is there. This should, again, be a war, as maybe a one-sided war as there can be, but it will always be entertainment. And again, you can't look past Benji Raddick and Scott Smith. I mean, this is a banger's ball. That's one of the things that I'm a little not concerned with, because I know everyone loves a knockout, but I'm a huge advocate of the ground game because I believe that's the art in mixed martial arts. So we have Rodrigo Dam, who's on short notice against Gilbert Melendez, that could make it a technical fight coming off a semi-final appearance in the Brazilian Abu Dhabi trials. Melendez has to prove himself. I mean, he's only 1-2 in his last 3 fights. Of course, it has to be a bit of a mental letdown, not of trying to avenge the loss to Thompson. So this whole card, the guys who kick it off, 2 undefeated heavyweight prospects. I don't think that one's going past the first round. So up and down, I think, again, made for television card. And let's remember that that's the bottom line is we want to attract, these viewers who aren't used to watching mixed martial arts. I think this is a great show.
All right, go back to the woman's comment. So what was the faux pas?
Well, I'll bring this up here. Back in September of 2007, there was a fight between Gina Carano and Tanya Evinger. And there was a quote made in the press conference that Evinger said, "I'm here to make out with Gina, but I'd rather make out with Gina, but I'm here to knock her out instead." Trying to add something to the broadcast, I say, an interesting comment from Tanya Evinger. I use the quote. My broadcast partner, Bill Goldberg, goes, "I'm not touching that with a 25-foot pole." My mind jumping ahead of me, I say, I would love to touch that with a 25-centimeter pole. At the time, and I know no one believes me, and I don't expect you to either, in my mind, the comment was to illustrate I would like to be close to see them kiss. Professional, probably not. But the backlash and the reason for the backlash, when I actually heard the comment over and actually thought about it, I'm like, wow, that was a double entendre that did not need to be said. And I actually appreciate that both Gina and Tanya accepted my apologies. Showtime handled it very well. I sat out the one show and paid my penance, but by no means am I this sexist, misogynistic person. I know there have been other forum, and that's the one thing about people on the forums. They have to be careful, because if you cross that personal line, regardless of anyone, it's like Voltaire. I said, I may not agree with what you said, but I will defend to the death your right to say it, but there is a line. And if you cross it, you have to pay the penalty. But I think that goes for everyone. So, again, anyone I may have offended back almost 2 years ago, I truly apologize, and I love female mixed martial arts.